On the day of the wedding, my childhood friend suddenly called off her marriage in front of everyone and confessed her love to me. I knew it instantly. She had been reborn. In her previous life, she had fallen in love with an illegitimate son, but he deceived her both emotionally and physically. Together with her stepsister, he plotted to seize her family's fortune. It was only at the very end of her life that she realized the one who had truly loved her all along was me. But in this life, I had been reborn too. I was reborn on the very day of Natalie's wedding. The church was pristine and solemn. The piano music played by the band was elegant and soothing, exactly the kind of style Natalie loved most. I sat among the guests, my gaze heavy as I looked at her standing on the stage. She wore a white, floor-length wedding gown. A thin veil partially covered her beautiful face. Her makeup was flawless, making her look even more breathtaking than usual. Her lips curved into a radiant smile, filled with the happiness of marrying the man she loved. Standing opposite her was the groom, my father's illegitimate son, the man she had loved for over 10 years, Daniel. She once told me that Daniel made her feel something different. That life among the wealthy was suffocating, and only the simple bowl of porridge Daniel cooked for her gave her warmth. And today, she was bringing her mother's entire inheritance into this marriage with him. The ceremony moved forward smoothly, like a carefully rehearsed performance, until the officiant asked Natalie whether she was willing to take her vows. In that instant, her expression changed. She suddenly rushed off the stage in a panic, nearly tripping over the long train of her gown. Yet she pushed forward desperately, as if afraid she would lose something precious. I watched calmly as she ran straight toward me. Just before her delicate fingers could touch me, I stepped aside. Her eyes darkened briefly, but she quickly lifted her chin, pretending to remain strong. Her eyes reddened as she looked at me deeply. "Gabe, I regret it. I only want to be with you. I love you. I know you love me too." I glanced at Daniel, who had chased after her, and replied in a cold, firm voice, "Sister-in-law, please respect yourself." Then I turned and left without looking back. Natalie cried out and tried to follow me, but the long train of her wedding dress tangled around her. Her brand-new husband grabbed her hand, stopping her from getting even a step closer to me. I knew without a doubt that Natalie had been reborn, just like me. In her previous life, she had loved Daniel obsessively. She dropped out of school for him, had an abortion, and even broke off our engagement to marry my father's illegitimate son, ignoring her family's objections. Her mother had passed away early, leaving her a vast inheritance that she would receive once she married. Daniel needed money to overthrow the Song family, so he deliberately seduced Natalie. They secretly started dating in high school. Their first taste of young love led to a pregnancy. Daniel persuaded her to have an abortion, and she agreed, but the procedure left her unable to have children ever again. After she broke off our engagement, I continued watching over her quietly. Her stepmother and stepsister bullied her and refused to give her money, so I sent her gifts and cash, doing everything I could to see her smile, only to watch her return to Daniel's side again and again. Back then, I believed love didn't necessarily mean possession. I thought it could also mean protection. But Natalie once said to me, "Gabe, to me you're like a brother, the best brother in the world." Yet behind my back, she casually told her friends, "Gabriel? He's just a dog who comes when I call and leaves when I tell him to." Later, after she married Daniel, she stole my research results and gave them to him. My company's new product, which was about to launch, became Daniel's. My company fell into crisis overnight. Meanwhile, Daniel soared to success using my work, becoming a rising star in the business world. He showed no mercy in crushing my company and even sought revenge on my mother. Like a madman, he barged into her hospital room and snarled at my bedridden mother, "It's all your fault that my mom and I suffered ridicule and humiliation. My mom and dad were true love. The one who wasn't loved was the mistress. You and Gabriel both deserve to die." My mother, already gravely ill, was so enraged by his words that she passed away. Drunk on power, Daniel later sent people to kill me, though I narrowly escaped. My company wasn't finished yet. I still had a chance to rise again. But Natalie invited me to meet her on the rooftop of an 18-story building. With tears streaming down her face, she sobbed, "Gabe, I'm sorry. But if I don't do this, my husband will leave me. I'm sorry, Gabe. I was the one who stole your research results. If there's a next life, I won't do it again." Then she pushed me off the rooftop without hesitation. I looked at her in shock and sorrow, unable to say a single word. After my death, Daniel didn't cherish her as she had hoped. Instead, he accused her of murdering me, and the evidence was overwhelming. Natalie was sentenced to prison. There, her stepsister Fiona visited her, holding a pregnancy test and sneering, "What made you think Daniel would ever love a woman who can't have children? Let me tell you the truth. Daniel has always loved me. While you were fighting your family for him, we were staying at hotels together. You even stole Gabriel's research for him. You're really stupid, aren't you? The only person who ever treated you well was Gabriel, and not only did you hurt him, you killed him." Natalie's eyes grew emptier and emptier. In the end, she took her own life in prison. I watched everything unfold with cold indifference. I never expected that when I opened my eyes again, heaven would give me another chance. This time, I would never mistake worthless stones for precious gems again. After leaving the church, I went straight to the hospital. Seeing my mother's pale yet gentle face, my eyes couldn't help but sting. In my previous life, she had been recovering, but Daniel's intrusion and vicious words worsened her condition, leading to her death. Her voice was soft. "Gabe, what's wrong? Weren't you at the wedding?" I sat beside her, holding her hand. Smiling faintly, I shook my head. "It wasn't important, so I left." Her gaze turned slightly sorrowful. She sighed. "Gabe, some things and some people aren't meant to be forced. Natalie isn't right for you. You need someone who can stand beside you as an equal, not a child who never grows up." I understood and nodded. "I know, Mom. I've given up on Natalie. I won't repeat the same mistakes." Her frail hand patted mine gently. I quickly excused myself, claiming I had work to do. "This time, no one would hurt you again, Mom." Since transferring her wasn't possible and this hospital was already the best in the country, I hired 10 bodyguards to protect her around the clock. No one except medical staff could approach her, not even a fly. After arranging everything, I returned to my company. On the top floor was my research lab, filled with biotechnology experts from across the country. My research was only one step away from completion. With knowledge from my previous life, I compiled the final results in less than 2 hours. This biotechnology project had been my dream since high school. I had once developed the most compatible data system for the human body, a technology that would allow humans to integrate with an AI brain, enabling true mind-to-machine connectivity. In my previous life, Daniel only stole my results. He rushed the AI brain to market before I did, causing my company to lose billions and my shares to crash. But he never developed the firewall. I had delayed the release because the final encryption wasn't ready. Daniel, reckless and impatient, never realized that. At first, his limited release brought him fame. But without proper firewall protection, hackers infiltrated the system. Users suffered brain data leaks. Some even experienced brain death. Prominent figures and officials were affected, and Daniel's reputation collapsed. At that time, I had completed the firewall and was preparing to return, until Natalie tricked me onto that rooftop. The experts in the lab were ecstatic when they saw the completed results. "Boss, you're a genius. You finished it in under 2 hours. Mr. Song, you're as fast as God." I smiled and shook my head. The groundwork had been laid in my previous life. In this life, I was simply following the path my memories had shown me. That evening, our lab went out to celebrate. While they drank and embraced in joy, I stepped onto the balcony for a cigarette. To my surprise, I ran into Natalie. She was dining nearby with her friends, her voice loud and animated. Just as I was about to leave, I heard her say, "Anyway, in this life, I'll only marry Gabriel. You all need to help me think of a plan." One friend laughed. "With your face, even I can't resist. How could he?" Another added, "He's probably just jealous you married Daniel. Just coax him a little. He's spoiled you for years, he'll soften." A third suggested, "Why not just sleep with him? After that, how could he refuse?" My expression grew colder. Birds of a feather flocked together. Just then I heard her call, "Gabe." I turned around. She threw herself into my arms, looking up pitifully. "Gabe, why won't you talk to me? Are you still mad? I pried her off and said coldly, Natalie, you're Daniel's wife now. Her eyes lit up. Are you jealous? Don't be, okay? I've already called off the wedding. In this life, I'll only marry you. Her overly sweet tone made me laugh bitterly. What makes you think I would marry a divorced woman? She stammered, unable to respond. Just then, Daniel and Fiona appeared. Natalie, you just got your marriage certificate and now you're chasing another man? Fiona snapped. Daniel grabbed Natalie's arm. Gabriel, she's my wife. Your sister-in-law. Natalie clung to my sleeve. I shook her off in disgust. Keep an eye on your wife. Don't let her embarrass herself. And as for sister-in-law, neither of you deserve that title. I pushed past them. As I opened the private room door, I heard a soft laugh. I turned and saw a woman in a red dress watching me with interest. Beside her stood another woman in white, her face flawless, cold and pure like a snow lotus on a mountain peak. She glanced at me indifferently before looking away. Slightly intrigued, I entered the room. After that, Natalie came to my company every day. Security blocked her repeatedly. One day, I witnessed it myself. Do you know who I am? I'm your boss's wife. How dare you stop me? I'll have Gabe fire all of you. She carried a delicate lunchbox, dressed like a college student, the way she believed I liked most. When she saw me, she rushed over. Gabe's here to pick me up. Just wait. I'll make sure he fires you. I pulled my arm away and calmly told the security guard, if anyone causes trouble and disrupts the company, throw them out. If they keep harassing us, call the police. Then I walked away without looking at her. Her lips trembled, tears filling her eyes. She grabbed me again and asked softly, do you really not like me anymore? You've loved me for so many years. A cold smile curved my lips as I replied mockingly, I must have been blind. I shook her off and walked away without hesitation. I truly couldn't understand how she could still act so shamelessly, thinking she could be with me after destroying my entire life for another man, and even killing me. Before I died in my previous life, the moment I learned that the research project I had devoted nearly 10 years to had been handed over to Daniel for the sake of her foolish love, any feelings I once had for her were completely extinguished. I also understood that taking revenge on a woman whose mind was consumed by love was meaningless. The real person who harmed me was Daniel. And in this life, I won't let him go. I'll make sure his ending is far more miserable than mine ever was. There was still one final piece missing from the firewall code, the last encryption key. Only one tech company in the entire country possessed that top-tier technology. Today, I was going to visit the powerful man behind that company. In my previous life, I had tried to crack it on my own, believing I could turn everything around by myself. But after researching it again in this life, I realized I needed that final key, and only Bi-Tech had it. If I could secure the rights and the technology, our company could release the AI brain at full speed with complete security. That was why I chose to collaborate. I had heard that this big shot had a daughter he treasured like a gem. I came prepared, carrying a sapphire and jade necklace I had spent billions on at an auction, hoping to make a good impression. When the door opened, I was stunned for a moment. The woman standing before me was the same beauty in white I had seen at the restaurant. She wasn't wearing any makeup, yet she was still breathtaking. Her long, smooth hair was loosely braided over one shoulder, giving her a softer look. She looked at me, her eyes flashing briefly, and asked calmly, "Who are you?" For some reason, I felt nervous. Straightening my posture, I replied, "I'm Gabriel. I have an appointment with Mr. Bai today." She nodded and stepped aside to let me in. She wore a simple house dress that revealed her slender ankles as she walked ahead of me to lead the way. Mr. Bai's home wasn't luxurious. Instead, it carried an old-fashioned, understated elegance, nothing like what one would expect from the head of a tech empire. I guess the woman in front of me must be his daughter. Strangely, that made me even more nervous. Mr. Bai was practicing calligraphy in his study. When I entered, he set down his brush and warmly invited me to sit. I handed him the gift box. "This is my first visit. I've heard you have a beloved daughter, so I brought this. I hope it's to your and your daughter's liking." Mr. Bai looked at me approvingly, nodded, and handed the necklace to the beauty beside him with a fond smile. "Mr. Song, you're very thoughtful. This is my precious daughter, Luciana. Lucy, this is Mr. Gabriel, CEO of Zeus Tech. You young people probably have more to talk about. Go ahead and chat." With that, Mr. Bai returned to his calligraphy. Luciana put the gift away, then walked toward me. Her voice was cool and steady, her beautiful face composed. "I know why you're here. Let's talk." Mr. Bai added without looking up, "The rights to the firewall key belong to Lucy, not me. She developed it while she was abroad. This old man knows nothing about it." I nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Bai." I followed Luciana into another room. As soon as I stepped inside, she closed the door behind us. My nerves tightened. I couldn't quite meet her eyes and instinctively lowered my head. Her calm voice broke the silence. "Marry me. Have children with me. Let me become a shareholder in Zeus. Then I'll give you the rights." I looked up in shock. She wasn't looking at me. Her gaze was fixed elsewhere, but her ears and neck were already flushed red. Her face remained composed, yet I could see the faint tremble in her posture. Luciana became my fiancée. News of our engagement spread quickly, setting the stage for the collaboration between Tech and Zeus. We planned to use the wedding buzz to build momentum, then hold a press conference to release the AI brain. After internal testing, the product would be ready for market. On my way to the hospital to tell my mother about the engagement, I saw Natalie at the entrance. She was wearing a little white dress, crouched on the ground, her eyes swollen from crying. When she saw me, she looked up, vulnerable. "Gabe, are you really getting engaged?" Her voice broke as tears started falling. I nodded, expressionless. "Who's Luciana?" "I've never even heard of her," she said bitterly. "Gabe, are you still mad at me? Did you just pick some nobody to spite me?" I wondered if she had completely lost her mind. Instinctively, I defended Luciana. "Watch your words. Miss Bai will soon be a shareholder and the lead scientist at Zeus. She doesn't need you to know who she is." "You gave her shares?" Natalie screamed. "You never gave me any." I didn't even bother responding and walked into the hospital room. She tried to follow, but the bodyguards stopped her. Just then, my phone rang. "Gabriel, I'm near the hospital. May I visit your mother?" Luciana's voice came through. "Where are you?" "I'll come get you," I said, already turning back toward the entrance. Natalie followed me like a shadow I couldn't shake off. When I saw Luciana at the hospital entrance, I realized it was only the third time we had met. Today she was wearing a formal suit, looking sharp and professional. She nodded at me slightly. I noticed she was carrying 2 fruit baskets, so I took them from her. When our hands brushed, I felt her tremble slightly. It was unexpectedly adorable, how she maintained such a calm exterior while secretly feeling nervous. "Why are you here?" I asked gently. "I was having lunch nearby and remembered your mother is here," she replied softly. I had mentioned it to her before. Neither of us talked much, so we walked in silence. Then Natalie appeared again. Her eyes were red, and she looked at me like I was some unfaithful scoundrel. "Is it her? What's so special about her? Gabe, don't ruin your life just to spite me. You didn't marry her in our previous life either. Are you reborn too? Gabe, I love you." I was about to ignore her when Luciana glanced at me and asked in confusion, "Isn't this the inpatient department? Not the psychiatric ward?" I couldn't help smirking. "Indeed. Strange." Natalie rushed toward us. I immediately shielded Luciana behind me. "Natalie, stop this. You're scaring my fiancée. Am I not prettier than her? We grew up together. I'm your childhood sweetheart. We've had 20 years together, and you loved me for so long. I love you too. Why did you suddenly change? Did that homewrecker seduce you?" "Watch your mouth," I said sharply. "If you insult my fiancé again, I won't let it slide." Luciana peeked out from behind me and said, even more puzzled, "I remember now. I saw her at the restaurant. Didn't she get married?" At that moment, I found her even more endearing. I didn't want to argue with Natalie anymore. Without thinking, I reached out and held Luciana's hand. She stiffened for a second. I was about to let go and apologize when she squeezed my hand back. "Let's go." "We shouldn't waste time," she said calmly, without sparing Natalie another glance. Security guards arrived and restrained Natalie. I led Luciana away. In the elevator, it was just the two of us. My palms were sweaty from nervousness, but she didn't pull her hand away. She asked softly, tension barely hidden, "What kind of girl does your mother like?" "My mom likes whatever I like," I replied, staring at the advertisement screen, my throat unexpectedly dry. "Oh," she whispered. My mother really liked Luciana. Her health had improved, and she could sit up and eat on her own. She chatted happily with Luciana. Although Luciana didn't talk much, she responded thoughtfully and even shared small amusing stories that made my mother laugh. Luciana's mother had passed away when she was young, so she grew up with only her father. I could tell she enjoyed talking to my mom. In just one day, she said more to my mother than she had to me in 3 meetings combined. As I peeled fruit nearby, my mother opened the small box she always carried. Inside was a translucent jade bracelet inlaid with purple gold, my grandmother's heirloom and extremely valuable. Luciana panicked, shaking her head and waving her hands. It was the first time I had seen her so flustered. She looked at me for help. I smiled. "Go ahead. My mom has been saving this for her daughter-in-law." Unable to refuse, Luciana reluctantly put on the bracelet. I understood why she felt awkward. Our marriage was a contract. Her father had early-stage liver cancer and didn't want to pass away without seeing his daughter married and holding a grandchild. He had been pushing her into blind dates. When she ran into me, the man she remembered from the restaurant, she saw an opportunity. I needed something from her too. So we agreed we would marry, have a child, and divorce after the baby was born. For me, it was a win-win. I told her about my family. My parents divorced. I stayed with my mother. My father, a so-called Phoenix man, took most of my mother's assets when they split and reunited with his mistress and their son. My mother fell into depression and became ill. With my grandfather's support, I built my company from scratch and eventually surpassed my father's Song Corporation. Since my mother stopped managing it, Song Corporation had been declining. That was why Daniel hated me so much. He was obsessed with surpassing me, as if that would erase the fact that he was illegitimate. And now he had married a woman who got her marriage certificate and immediately tried to cheat on him with me. "Gabe, go see Lucy off," my mother said. I nodded. As soon as we left the room, Luciana grabbed my hand. For the first time, I saw a faint crease of anxiety on her brow. "That Natalie, is she really your childhood friend?" I nodded. "Do you still like her?" she asked, turning away, her voice tinged with frustration. "I don't want my husband thinking about another woman. If you still like her, let's call off the engagement. I won't give you the rights either." I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I led her to the parking garage. When we reached my car, she looked at me in surprise. "You. Get in. Let's go eat," I said. She fell silent and got into the passenger seat. "Buckle your seatbelt." She glanced at me strangely but complied. I smiled faintly. On the 3rd time she glanced at me, I finally said, "I don't like her anymore." She blinked, waiting. "I used to. But after she got together with, and married, my father's illegitimate son, I stopped." "Oh." Her voice was calm, but I caught the small smile on her lips. "What did she mean by reborn?" she asked. Half joking, half serious, I replied, "Exactly what it sounds like. In my previous life, I was betrayed by those I trusted. Now I'm reborn and back for revenge. Want to hear more? $50 and I'll tell you my whole plan." At a red light, I felt something soft brush against my hand. I turned to look, but Luciana had already turned away as if nothing happened. I smiled and held her hand firmly. We didn't speak for the rest of the drive. But I could tell she was in a much better mood. On the day of our engagement party, Luciana wore the white custom dress I had given her. It made her look almost unreal. When I saw her, the first words that slipped out were, "You look beautiful." She pretended not to hear and tried to walk past. I pulled her gently by the waist, teasing her on purpose. She looked up at me, blinking her big, innocent eyes. For a split second, I had the urge to lean in and kiss her. But before I could act on it, the lounge door suddenly opened. The person who walked in was someone I recognized, the woman in the red dress from the restaurant. Today, she was wearing a subtle Chanel-style short skirt. The moment she saw us, she exaggeratedly covered her eyes and said, "Oh my God, I shouldn't have come in here. I'm about to get an eyeful." I glanced at my blushing fiancé and reluctantly let her go. After giving the woman a polite nod, I stepped out of the lounge. Today was the day I would sign the share transfer agreement, giving Luciana 6% of Zeus's shares. Originally, it was meant to be 3%, since I only held 20% myself. But at the last minute, I changed my mind. I didn't want this to be just a contractual marriage anymore. I wanted to stay with Luciana for the long term. The banquet officially began, and Luciana and I went around toasting the guests. Many business elites from the capital had come, along with some of my grandfather's old friends and Mr. Bai's associates. My grandfather was there too. He had always had high hopes for me, even though he was still upset that my mother had cut ties with him to marry a poor man. I respected him deeply, which was why I allowed him to hold a large portion of my company's shares. He looked at Luciana and me, nodding in satisfaction. Then suddenly, a waiter spilled red wine all over Luciana's custom-made white gown, leaving a large, ugly stain. The waiter kept apologizing, but when she looked up, I caught a fleeting triumphant smirk on her face. It was Natalie. She dropped to her knees and began wiping at Luciana's gown with a dirty cloth. Luciana's expression instantly turned cold as she called over the floor manager. The entire room fell silent, and all eyes turned toward us. At that moment, my assistant hurried over and whispered something in my ear. The AI brain had been launched. By Song Corporation. I looked down at Natalie, who was crying loudly and accusing the wealthy of bullying her. An overwhelming sense of emptiness washed over me. I had always thought she was simply foolish. I never realized she was truly malicious. In my past life, I had loved this woman for more than 10 years. Without a word, I took off my jacket and wrapped it around Luciana's waist, covering most of the stain. Leaning closer, I whispered, "I prepared 2 dresses for you. Go to the lounge and change." She nodded, glanced once at the crying Natalie, and left with her friends. The party resumed as if nothing had happened. I crouched down in front of Natalie. "You used such a petty trick to disgust me and my fiancé. I won't let this go." She raised her head and sneered. "You've been reborn, haven't you? You know what I did in the last life, don't you? Since you don't love me anymore, I don't need to pretend with you. Your company is about to go bankrupt again, just like in the last life." I looked at her and shook my head with a faint smile. "You know I've been reborn, so how could I not be prepared for you and Daniel?" Her eyes widened in shock. I smiled mischievously. "You're really pitiful. Even after being reborn, you still chose to rely on a man. When you failed to win me back, you threw yourself at Daniel, the same man you humiliated by confessing your love to me during your wedding. Do you really think Daniel will ever forgive you? You embarrassed him in front of everyone. There's no way he'll just let that go." With that, I turned and went to pick up my fiancée, who had changed into another dress. The second dress was dark green, perfectly highlighting Luciana's fair skin and graceful figure. When she stepped out, people gasped in admiration. "She's stunning. Miss Bai is gorgeous. Mr. Song is so lucky." I smiled and nodded. "Indeed, I'm very lucky to have such a beautiful bride." Leaning closer, I whispered teasingly in her ear, "Miss Bai, your fiancé's product has just been released by someone else. The company is about to go bankrupt. It's too late for you to back out now." Luciana looked up at me, and for once, there was a playful spark in her eyes. "Then I'll have to break off the engagement by force." I wrapped my arm around her slender waist and smirked. "Too late." "Oh, poor me," she said seriously, which made me laugh. When I handed her the share transfer agreement, her eyes flickered with surprise. She looked at me as if asking whether I had made a mistake. I gently patted her head. "Sign it. Since you've boarded my pirate ship, I won't let you suffer." This time, it was 25% of my shares. She bit her lip before signing her name. Song Corporation rushed to release the AI brain ahead of me. Watching Natalie easily retrieve what she thought was my data through surveillance, relying on memories from her previous life, I couldn't help but feel amused. She knew I had been reborn, so how could I possibly leave critical data in the same place as before, unprotected and easy for her to access? But unlike the limited success in the previous life, this time Song Corporation's AI brain was almost like a half-finished product. It couldn't even connect properly to the brain, and some users experienced severe headaches immediately after linking. Within hours, Song Corporation was trending on social media and being ridiculed. At that moment, Zeus Tech released an official lawyer's statement online, declaring that company files had been stolen. We accused Song Corporation of using unauthorized code and irresponsibly launching an unfinished product that endangered consumers. The internet exploded. Everyone already knew about the rivalry between Song Corporation and Zeus Tech. At the height of the buzz, I published an article under my mother's name. It clearly detailed how my father, Lucas Song, a so-called Phoenix man, had deceived my mother into pregnancy before marriage and forced her into marrying him. After the marriage, he cheated and emotionally abused her, driving her into severe depression. Lucas had used my mother's dowry to establish Song Corporation. At its peak, he kicked my mother and me out and welcomed his mistress and illegitimate son into our home. And the one who stole Zeus Tech's code was none other than the illegitimate son's wife, Natalie, who exploited our childhood friendship to infiltrate my company and steal confidential files. I included surveillance footage as proof. As if that wasn't enough, someone leaked the wedding video where Natalie publicly called off her wedding to Daniel and confessed her love to me. The drama of a wealthy family's secrets was far more entertaining to the public than corporate disputes. In no time, Song Corporation's stock plummeted. Daniel and Natalie became targets of public outrage. At 6 p.m., my press conference began. I stood in a suit, and beside me, Luciana wore a matching professional outfit. Facing a sea of flashing cameras, we held hands, our engagement rings gleaming under the lights. News of the Zeus by Tech collaboration spread instantly. It became widely known that Luciana was now the true head of Tech. During the conference, she revealed a share transfer document. She had given me 4% of Tech's shares. At that time, Tech was still much larger than Zeus Tech, so her 4% was worth far more than mine. I stared at her in shock. She bit her lip and said softly, "I'm already on the pirate ship, so here's my token of sincerity." I took the document and gently kissed her cheek. Her ears turned red instantly. "I see your sincerity, my dear fiancé," I whispered. The reporters went wild. Together, we introduced the AI brain to the world. I explained its capabilities while Luciana elaborated on the firewall. We presented what we called the world's most secure biotechnology. Online discussions skyrocketed. Zeus Tech and Tech became global hot topics. Next came internal testing. We released videos showing how users could connect their brains directly to the internet, send messages, and browse online with absolute security. When the AI brain officially launched, 1 million chips sold out on the first day. Luciana and I had succeeded. The day before our wedding, I received a call from Natalie. She and Daniel had been on the run, evading arrest, yet they were still hiding in the same city. As she spoke, I quietly used the AI brain to alert the police and record the conversation. She cried over the phone, "Gabe, I know you're getting married tomorrow. I'm begging you, for my grandmother's sake, please meet me one last time." Her grandmother had given me warmth during my childhood. My father never cared about me, and my mother was always ill. On countless difficult nights, it was her grandmother who looked after me. On her deathbed, I promised to take care of Natalie. That was one of the reasons I had loved her so deeply in my previous life. I sighed and agreed to meet her. When I returned to the rooftop where I had died in my previous life, I saw Natalie and Daniel. Daniel looked scruffy and had lost his former charm. Natalie wore shabby clothes, her hair messy. They had clearly fallen on hard times. When Natalie saw me, she suddenly began laughing. But tears streamed down her face. "Gabriel, you're still so stupid. If you had chosen me back then, I wouldn't have ended up like this. But your karma is coming soon." Her expression turned cold. She and Daniel began pushing me toward the old, rusty railing. I looked at them calmly, as if they were nothing more than lunatics. "I'm just glad I saw your true colors in this life," I said to her. "Even if I had the chance to relive everything, I still wouldn't choose you." I turned to Daniel with a mocking smile. "Your mother was a mistress, and now you're wearing the same green hat as your father, cheated on by your own wife. Seems like you and your mother can't escape your fate as third parties." "Shut up. You're about to die and you're still talking," Daniel roared, grabbing my collar. "If it weren't for you, I'd be the rightful heir to the Song family. Why should your mother be the lady of the house while mine was scorned? You only have your rich grandfather's help. I'm no less capable than you. Then why do you need a woman's dowry to save Song Corporation?" I shot back, laughing. "You can't succeed without cheating and stealing through women. And now, to kill me, you relied on a woman's trick to lure me here. Is your success always dependent on women?" His eyes bulged with fury. "And what about you? Aren't you just marrying into the Bai family? Aren't you just a live-in son-in-law?" I grinned. "I married for love, something you'll never understand. And if I'm a son-in-law, at least I married into a powerful family. My wife is the #1 female billionaire on Forbes. Who did you marry? A woman who dropped out of high school and couldn't even get into a third-rate college." "Shut up!" Natalie screamed. "Kill him!" The next second, the police stormed in and pinned them to the ground. Suddenly, someone rushed toward me. A familiar figure threw herself into my arms. Her beautiful face was filled with worry, her eyes red as she pounded on my chest without restraint for the first time. "Gabriel, were you planning to make me go to the wedding alone tomorrow? How could you do something so dangerous without telling me? Do you think you're invincible? You're supposed to be a good son-in-law. From now on, you tell me everything." I held her hands tightly and pulled her into a deep embrace, letting out a satisfied sigh. "I understand, darling," I whispered. "I won't keep anything from you again." At our wedding, we invited only close friends and family. Luciana wore a handmade wedding gown designed by an Italian master. She looked like an angel as Mr. Bai walked her down the aisle toward me. I spoke my vows sincerely. When she looked at me with equal sincerity and said, "I do," I knew she was the one. My mother sat in the front row, covering her face as she cried uncontrollably. My grandfather sighed and gently patted her shoulder. I wrapped my arms around Luciana and finally kissed the lips I had longed for. In this life, I hadn't loved the wrong person. Later, as she lay in my arms, her face flushed, she murmured, "Gabriel, we only have a contractual marriage." I smiled, looking at the marks I had left on her neck. "Dad told me his liver is fine now," she added softly. She froze, her ears turning even redder. I teased her gently. "Your best friend told me you fell in love with me at first sight. So was this whole marriage plan just a scheme to trick me?" Her body grew warmer in my arms. I chuckled softly and kissed her again. Outside, the sun shone brightly. And in my arms, I held the love of my life.